Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? This show, I don't know how long it's going to be on for, but it's going to be all about the minutes. The minutes have came out from Celtic. We've finally got, they agreed, this is how it went down. He said this, he said that, and we can finally get our teeth stuck into it. I have not read any of it, but McBride Ace, who's joining me tonight, good to see you, my man, has had a bit of a read through, and we've kind of caught some vibes and some whispers across the interwebs. But thanks to everyone joining us. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. Hail, hail, more the hoops. McBride, good to see you, my man. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good evening. I was just limbering up to watch the Scotland game and stuff there, and I thought, yeah, I have something far more interesting to do than that. But yeah, big game for Scotland tonight. But I looking forward to having a chat about Celtic as always, and said to you I'm away next week, so I'll not get a chance to come on next week. So yeah, a bit of peace and quiet for a week. But yeah, always good to be chatting about Celtic.
I'm just punching a wee tweet out at the same time, my man. Hate to be rude. I know, but great to see you. And yeah, sorry in advance that we're not going to have you next week. But as always, you know, you're living the life of Riley. There's always a pint of beer somewhere to be found and drunk, and you're going to go and find another one.
Just go to a caravan. So, it's not like I'm going to Egypt or whatever. You know, it's like muscle, bro. So, but anyway, I love going on holiday in Scotland. Honestly, like if you could get a bit of decent weather in Scotland, and there's loads of nice places to go. So yeah, I would just be happy to get a bit of peace for a week. So it's all good.
Well, I've had some peace this week, but it's mainly because I've been on my sick bed. I've actually did the square root of 0 until today, and I've been at it since the steroids and the antibiotics kicked in today. Just had to catch up on so much. It's been all systems go. And the minutes, honestly, that's why I've not read them, because I've just genuinely been backs to the wall. For all the stuff that me and McBride kind of mess around with, there's been tons of innovations with like different games that are coming out with free-to-play modes and different things happening with blah, 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 lots of stuff. There's been too much to get across. And but yeah, this I'm looking forward to doing. I like a live reaction. I'm a bit of a fan of it. Normally on this show we talk about like the squad, tactics, preview for the weekend, that sort of thing. We can still maybe get into bits and bobs of that, where like we've still got stones to overturn or unturn or whatever the word is. But yeah, no game this weekend. Internationals, Tierney and Ralston on the bench. Maybe we'll see them come off second half, maybe. And yeah, I'm just going to post this. Boom, sorted, and forget about it. But yeah, we'll just flip the statement on and tear into it.
Aye, why don't we? Yeah.
I'm just thinking, is this the best screen? Does this work?
Yeah.
Will we be in front of the words? Yeah, maybe a wee bit. It's froze over here then, or not?
That's all right.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's anyway. I'll maybe magnify it if we need to. Right. So, following the Monday meeting with the supporters, the club welcomed the opportunity to meet the broad range of fan representatives. Did they? It feels quite into. Come on, guys, come on. You're not that good at life.
Still game moment. It's like I was watching Still Game last night, and it was when they were opening the community centre, and the wee guys going, "No, you're nae. No, he isn't."
Totally.
Welcome the opportunity. No, they don't.
No, they don't. You're talking shit. The club has not been where we all want it to be, and that's like the bare minimum positive recognition, I suppose, that we can start with.
Yeah.
As outlined in Tuesday's meeting summary, outputs from the meeting included a commitment to seek to ensure supporter involvement in meetings with Police Scotland regarding other stuff, the development of supporter engagement process, and progressing a new safe standing working group. Okay, the meeting is part of our ongoing commitment to engage meaningfully with supporters, building on existing dialogue and working together. Now, I think this is actually, like, if this is genuine, maybe we can discuss whether it is or not. Chat is here in the house. Fist bumps to you all that are joining us. Let your thoughts and feelings be known on what we're talking about as we're going through it. If you're watching this after we've been live, the best thing you can do is put a wee timestamp on it, and then we can know directly what part you're talking about. And anyone else who jumps into the comment sections, or me and McBride or whoever, kind of know where to maybe discuss with you. But I said to Paul John before he was going into the meeting, you know, like just kind of just chatting away or whatever, like a really good thing to get would be the next meeting booked, because one of the worries is that they just kind of go back to the normal protocol of you hear them at the AGMs or the little YouTube videos we want to put out or whatever. So the fact that like this is something that they're actually like stated for, and by all accounts are trying to hire somebody there now to be like head of fan engagement or something. I don't know. So if that's sincere,
PR consultancy.
Well, yeah, we have heard that too. That they've hired an outside party, and think what a lot of people think it's yielded so far is like bot farming stuff, where you get random accounts you've never seen or heard of before being quite pro board. That's what it feels like it's happened so far. I don't really feel to have anything else out there. Maybe that's just speculation or paranoia or something. While views may differ, we all share the same fundamental objective, the continued success of the club. Of course, that's good to hear. We are pleased to host the meeting. Thanks supporters for their attendance, involvement. Club intends, download the minutes. Okay. Cool, here we go. Oh, this is going to be dry. This is your wheelhouse, McBride, isn't it? Reading these tapes. So, Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay, John Paul Taylor, Mark Hargreaves, Kevin McQuillan, and George Campbell. Representing.
Let's make some noise for the.
Let's make some noise for the boys. The supporter attendees we had was the affiliation of registered Celtic supporter clubs, which was Alan Horn and McElhaney. We had the Association of Irish Celtic Supporters Clubs. Can I do this? Oh, no. Let's give that a go. Jerry McDonald, Mick Hurley. Then we had the Celtic Disabled Supporters Association, Mark Henderson, Claire Byrne. And then we had the Celtic Fans Collective, which is actually...
That's plenty, Quinny. That's plenty. Moving on.
A subset, actually. Oh, okay, fair enough. We'll kind of kick on with it. But this... So I kind of thought initially when this thing came around that this was driven by the CFC, for lack of a better expression. But the club is kind of like half taking control of the situation a wee bit here and kind of invited other people in themselves, which are, everyone deserves to be there that's here. I'm not saying anything contrary to that, but that feels like a little kind of chess move, maybe a wee bit, that it's not bowing to this one group here. That's kind of, I suppose all these people are kind of wrapped up in the group together, aren't they? But I don't know. It's just maybe a stupid.
It's quite a big meeting as well, isn't it? I mean, obviously quite a lot of people there, and obviously you want like all different people represented. So fine. So.
Right, where to start with this? 10 pages. Michael Nicholson opened the meeting, thanked everyone for attending, confirming the club are aware of issues that supporters have raised and wish to discuss with the club. Concerns have also been raised with the club around potential impact of the team on the pitch. The club has arranged for the meeting to discuss a way forward. The club invited recognised representative supporters groups to meet and have done in the past, most recently in relation to the Fairhurst report. The club received a response in the morning, further attendees for the Fans Collective. The club, Martin Nicholson, acknowledged that the club is not in a place where we want to be. Recent communications have not been well received by supporters. The club wants to find a way forward, which allows us to address concerns while backing the team on the pitch. We respect everyone's entitled to views and can discuss it respectfully. We have ongoing differences, but the fundamentals, Okay, so that's just the welcome, isn't it? Opening comments. So PQ, is this... PQ is Paul Quigley from the CFC. I think that's going to be.
Yeah.
Expressed the supporters' desire for a further response to the 7 questions published. The creation of the CFC, together with the objectives of the group, was explained, with representatives highlighting the support. It was noted that a wide range of individuals and opinions, united demand for change, including in relation, noting the roles of chair, they want them sacked. Strategy, execution, and accountability of the board PLC, Board of Supporters Trust, the 2025 transfer window, the club statement, which follows a flashpoint. So PQ set the standout here for where we're at, 7 questions and everything. And this is just a summary of all that. It feels like, isn't it?
Yeah, it's never really going to be an easy meeting, I suppose. The Celtic are going there, and then they're actually, the supporters groups are asking for some of the people who are conducting the meeting to be sacked, effectively. So kind of saying, we don't have any confidence in you. So, it's never going to, it's never going to be a happy-go-lucky, oh, yeah, so thanks very much, we're making good progress here, and, is there anything to be updated or whatever? It's like, you, and you, we want you sacked. So, it's always going to be a wee bit difficult, isn't it?
So that was Martin Gemmell. I'm pretty sure that was. I just double checked who this one was. But Martin Gemmell from the CFC. He kind of highlighted, this is about the fans wanting these answers to these things in particular. Michael Nicholson confirmed that the club was aware of the questions, together with similar correspondence received to email directly to club colleagues. Nicholson confirmed that the club did not believe it was appropriate to respond in writing at the time the 7 questions were first published. Chris Mackay noted that it is difficult to explain all the variables in written form. Martin Gemmell asked why the club won't utilise video and speak to supporters directly. Following meetings with supporter organisations on Friday, 5th of September, it was understood that there was a desire for the club to address supporter concerns regarding the transfer window. Club engagement with supporters was also discussed more generally, with Michael Nicholson highlighting a number of meetings with supporters groups, fans, forums, AGM. Engagement with media on footballing matters was also discussed, with Michael Nicholson confirming that the football manager comments on footballing matters. So they don't want to, they're kind of hiding behind we don't want to be like the owner that runs the, we don't want to be telling the manager to pick the team kind of stuff, which, okay. But that's a bit of a cop-out, isn't it, when it's transfer business?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you've got Brendan Rodgers there kind of like every window like complaining about the club not getting players in. So, like, yeah, I mean, they say they don't comment on football matters, but the point is maybe they should. I've seen some of our clubs do some stuff like where they would like maybe put out an update at the end of the windows. So this is what's happened with the window. We had some targets. So I mean, I think it came out one of the previous ones that they said that there was a main target we'd had to something happened, they'd been injured or so postponed it to another window or whatever. And obviously you can't like mention names or whatever because these are all like confidential discussions and the like. But what we're like kind of looking for is like a wee bit of like sort of transparency on some of that stuff. I mean, obviously when people don't know exactly what's going on behind that curtain or that window and that like sort of 7 o'clock, 11 o'clock on the Monday night, there's loads of speculation and everything that runs wild, and they just want like some of the points actually to be addressed. I mean, you're the CEO of Celtic or whatever, you don't even need to come on live or whatever and answer questions live or whatever. It's not Prime Minister's questions or whatever, but there's loads of media that goes out with the player speaking, with the manager speaking, with the Celtic Foundation and stuff like that. And the only people at the club that don't actually like speak to people seem to be the actual hierarchy. So maybe they should do it, just actually change and just, react to it's not nice getting like terrible feedback or whatever, but like, there is a disconnect between people running the club and the fans. And like, if their whole model is around this sort of commercial stuff and the player trading and everything, then the fans don't buy Adidas stuff and don't go to the games and don't buy flat Fantas and stuff like that, then, well, that's the commercial revenue is going to go down, isn't it? So,
indeed. A lot of good points you make there. In terms of the confidentiality aspect of it, I didn't really think of that. The last comment I had on, I think it was from Typhoon, is quite interesting. And I kind of got that vibe without knowing it. But when Typhoon McFlustery said that, I thought, yeah, I agree with that. So I did get the feeling that, and again, it kind of leads on to that second comment I just put up there, and there's some similar points being made in the chat as well. And by the way, the sniffing chat, I was absolutely heaving on the sniffing chat and the live chat on Axom on Monday. It was hilarious. And for any of you that caught Monday's Axom as well, this kind of ties into kind of what you were picking on there, McBride, in terms of the CEO of Celtic or whatever. Paul John was at the meeting, and afterwards he was talking about, it wasn't Monday, so it was Tuesday the meeting, wasn't it? So I must have heard him saying it on Wednesday. But he was talking about how, like, sadly, and you don't want, I personally don't want to speak ill of Celtic people, especially when they're Celtic fans and are not really out there to do you harm. You kind of just worry they're just not good enough for the job, sadly. But Michael Nicholson, he says, isn't CEO material. He's just not that cut of guy, and I'm not some crazy businessman or anything like that, right? But I've been involved in some business and I listen to a lot of those types of things. And CEOs are a very, there's a few personality types that fit those roles, let's say, and, just to be kind, his personality type doesn't seem to be one. And when you're running a global powerhouse in the making, and I say in the making because financially, even though all that money's in the bank and whatever, we're not anywhere near our potential. Like, really, we're still in so many ways a sleeping giant. So that's like, that's a wee bit of a funny thing, isn't it, as well? Which came to mind as you were kind of talking about all that kind of stuff, McBride, in terms of like the actual powers that be or whatever. But they do act as well, and maybe it's a self-preservation thing, but they don't want to show that they are maybe punching above their weight a little bit. that they try and act that there's some sort of secret sauce or there's something that some sort of unknown element. But as me and you know, like, we could jump onto Twitter right now and find sporting directors of every La Liga club, every Bundesliga club, every Serie A club, every Belgian club, every Dutch club talking about the transfer window after it closes and saying objectives were this, we achieved that, this was the strategy. They don't need to tell everyone what's going on in terms of we bid for this player and it didn't come through or anything, you know, but they've got that. Like, there's, you know, it's not, you know, it's not like, yeah, it's no like trade secrets to be hidden in that. It's football. Everything's so transparent nowadays. And especially these clubs that are a lot more reliant on the people that live there, you know, the actual locals, they have to bow to, you know, satisfying them with everything. Celtic doesn't have that crutch, of course, with a global fan base and the season ticket sales and the waiting list that goes on top of that. By the way, anyone that is watching this live, the biggest thing you could do to support the channel is hit the like button, especially if you're in the live chat. Just helps YouTube know we're having a good stream here, and they'll find us some more jungle gyms to come and hang out with us. And then, yeah, we just maybe have a wee bit more banter in the live chat, which is always welcome, isn't it? And I've had emails every day this week asking me to buy match tickets. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the chat as well. I'll try and keep up with as much of it as I can, but I do want to get across this for myself as well. Mark Nicholson then addressed the statement released on behalf of the board, dated on Saturday, some of the specific issues. Him and Chris Mackay acknowledged that the statement was not well received, noting that this further highlights the importance of having these discussions with supporters in better context. I do agree with the not responding to 7 questions. That's, you know, it's good that they don't want to do that in writing, I think, because it is like quite a in-depth thing, isn't it? But yeah, so they acknowledged the statement was not well received. This meeting also acknowledged more general concerns regarding the tone of the delivery of the statement and how it was viewed by supporters as insulting. Michael Nicholson confirmed that this was not the intention of the statement, of course. Did he confirm it wasn't generated by AI, is what I'm trying to see, which I don't think he did. When asked why there was no signature on the statement, Michael Nicholson declared it was normal practice and the statement was released on behalf of the board. Did they even say on behalf of the board, though? I don't think it did. It was like done.
It just says Celtic. I mean, obviously, it's just from Celtic or whatever, which is a club. Which I think like the actual tone of the statement's much worse than who it's signed off by or whatever. You know, like who really cares about that? It's like what's in the statement and how they're addressing things. Like it was a crap statement. I mean, at a point where like people were a bit annoyed and stuff like that, it made things worse. So like they'd have been better saying, almost been better saying nothing, if you know what I mean. I know that's not the strategy, but it did make things worse. So, you know, I think there is a like obviously a lack of like understanding from the club about how annoyed like people were and stuff. And you obviously you've got these like 7 questions and stuff like that, but there was like a whole sort of unanimous sort of drive at one point. I can't remember before or after the statement to try and actually get some change. And like this kind of turning up and saying, yeah, well, the strategy's worked well, and you know we've had a good strategy and blah blah blah. And it's not a good strategy, is it? Like we get pumped out by Kairat Almaty. Unless we qualify for the Champions League automatically, we don't get in. So like we've had a good strategy of building up money, but that's not the strategy for the way forward. I think we had a chat about this before, right? It's like, what's the strategy? Yeah. What is the vision for now? So now you've accumulated the money in the bank. Now you've got yourself to the point where you've won lots of leagues. You've made a trading profit. You're still selling your best players. What's the strategy from here? Like, you know, obviously we're going through the statement stuff and I seen me snippets earlier about bringing through Champions League players from the youth system and stuff like that. And like, yeah, all right, like whatever. But you know, it's pie. That's pie in the sky stuff. You know, like you don't just bring through Champions League players. You know what I mean? It's like it's not like Football Manager and you've paid an extra £150 for some sort of magic mystic Meg person and to get all your wonder kids through or whatever. You know, like it's like that's not going to happen. So. So focus on the youth development and everything is all well and good and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, like Celtic should be playing in the Champions League. That's where we want to aim to be, playing in the Champions League. We're winning the league. And one of the reasons why we don't get in the Champions League is because we were garbage in Europe for ages and the coefficients snookered. So you can't really blame anybody else for any of that stuff. I don't think, bar us. So
Totally. This was something you brought up before, and it's a good detail, of course, that Michael Nicholson confirmed the club is happy to discuss the questions, but some issues, including the removal of directors, are matters for the board and shareholders. So, like, you can't talk about sacking the guys that are sitting here, lads. That's just not going to happen. Told at the beginning of the meeting. Maintaining confidence. And seeing I just read this just now, this feels like a little dig to those people that leaked the stuff dead quickly. You know, that like at the outset, we emphasize the importance of confidentiality within the discussions where appropriate, together with the impact of the obligation on the club's ability to share confidential information relating to the club's business affairs, including individuals and transfers. Supporter groups confirmed that they sought to understand the club's strategy rather than details, which again, we've just iterated, I think, haven't we? Or specifics on potential transfers. Okay. Question 1. Club's long-term football strategy. When and how will this be communicated? Michael Nicholson confirmed that the club's strategy is clear. The club aims to be a world. No way he said this, man. No way he said this. Like opening statement to the. I bet he couldn't have made eye contact with anyone.
Seriously,
you know, one of those awkward ones where you're just kind of like anging it, just looking down.
I mean, like seriously. I mean, like, let's look at both elements of it. I mean, we're way back to the point where we started doing this, like, sort of strategy and player trading and everything. I remember it was like other clubs like PSV Eindhoven and everything used to do it, and they would buy guys from abroad and would sell them on for higher fees, and you know, became this thing where people were becoming intrigued by it, and obviously Celtic got involved with it, which is good. And you know, there's other examples in Scotland, obviously, of people spending money on things that just been like horrendously not successful. So, all right, but like, see this whole thing with the strat, this is just whiffing straight away of like sort of complacency and arrogance. You know, it's this has been the strategy and this has worked really well. But has it worked really well? Okay, like, you know, Celtic like winning these leagues and stuff like that, is that the success that we should actually be aiming for? I mean, some of these leagues were virtually like walkover situations, and you know, you've got to beat Rangers and everything at the moment. This season, it might even be Hearts that you've got to beat. And if that is the case, there's a huge disparity in terms of budgets and stuff like that. So, like, that's not like the success we're aiming for. Celtic's aim should have been to make sure we were in the Champions League this season, and then you can aim to build on maybe what we did last season, playing against, like, getting to the point where we're playing Bayern and things. But you know, just winning the Scottish League is not based on what we've been doing like good enough, I don't think. And like, based on creation of UCL players through the academy, seriously, are they having a laugh? I mean, like, you could have like 100 people come through the academy and you'd be lucky if one of them's good enough to play in the Champions League. Like, that's just the reality of like youth development and everything.
I completely agree with where it's at, but as I've kind of said on the channel, sorry, I need to clear my nose 2 seconds.
Okay. You've definitely been nowhere this week, Quinny.
Been a nightmare. But for the last year, I've kind of not mentioned it, maybe a year and a half whenever they announced it, but maybe even 2 years. But as soon as they announced they were building that facility, like at that point, I think you've got to just confess they can't really do much more than buy a brand new facility and aim it at optimizing and revamping the system. It's the first start. It's the biggest start. It's the biggest like step in youth development. Getting good coaches and good processes and pathways is all nice, but really in the modern game, if you don't have facilities, because it's all about science and it's like racehorses. I've said that a million times. Young kids going into professional football are about making them as fast, tall, strong. Like, that's a big thing. They're looking at biomarkers and metrics and making sure that these kids come out as thoroughbreds by the end of it. You know, so as soon as they started building that thing, I'm kind of like, okay, well, youth development is now like, it's going to be when that opens, it's a you know, it's a turn of the page moment, you know. So we're at that stage now where we're waiting for the page to like start to lift, you know, before it's finished building, you know. So I'm with you on that, but like from where they're at, like I think they have something to say this is available in the future as a goal, but it's not part of the current strategy. We don't have current Champions League players from the academy bolstering the squad to success, really, beyond McGregor and the recently reacquired Tierney. So I'm with you overall. Player recruitment, player trading, and technical functions too.
Just takes so long to do. Like you could have the next Messi comes into the academy just now, but like they're 10 years away from playing for the club. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we're talking about like obviously that's part of the overall strategy and that's admirable and all that sort of stuff. But the best guy to come through the academy in recent times, regardless of facility, has been Ben Doak, and he just walked away because of like numerous factors. So we lost him. You know, 20 million investment. Doak just went for 25 million in the English Premier League, and Liverpool wanted a buyback on him and stuff like that. So, like, okay, but like, you know, it's just like you've got to look after those guys when they come through as well, and make sure there's that pathway into the team, and give them, when it's obvious that you've got a guy there who's really, really good, then you've got to play them.
I'm with you. I think there's a lot of, sorry, I'm going to clear my nose in a second, but I'll make a wee point. You can come back to it, McBride, right? But it's in line with what you're saying, what we're talking about. River C says, biggest problem we have is the lack of alternatives to the Lowland League. I completely disagree with that, because I think, like, this is maybe a bit generous. Please don't come at me for this, right? Please just accept what I'm just generally saying here, right? But is Anthony Ralston like the bottom of the Champions League academy product bandwidth, where it's a guy that could play 2 or 3 matches if you really had to, and he's probably not going to let you down. He's never going to win you a game necessarily, and come off the bench for 20 minutes and fit in, you know, that kind of standard. So if that's like, and if you just reverse engineer Anthony Ralston, what did his career path start off like? He went on loan to Dundee United and God knows who else. He had a bunch of loan moves. You can look at maybe Adam Montgomery in the same kind of light, where maybe Adam Montgomery in a year or two is the left-sided Anthony Ralston, and he's just a guy that raises his game to a level that works for us as like a kind of a base camp. But even in the better case scenarios, Bruges, Barcelona, Ajax, do you know what they do? With anyone that looks halfway decent, is they put them in the first team. They'll put them in the first team, get them a game or two, suss them out. Maybe they keep them around, or maybe then they loan them to St Mirren or Dundee. You actually just keep them in the division, you loan them out somewhere else, and you monitor them from there. So I don't really think the Lowland League is even part of the equation. If Celtic manage it properly and are really on top of it and have the squad space for these guys to get their 3 games a season just to suss them out. On top of that as well, we have to be a lot more... If you see Ben Doak and you really see the writing on the wall there, you go, listen, wee man, here's an improved contract and we're going to loan you for 2 years into bloody Austria to that club that we've got. Or, you know, maybe that would be too low level for him, whatever. Maybe Ben Doak wouldn't have accepted that. You'd probably get what I'm saying, but in general, let's give you a contract. Let's get you out on the continent because we think you're going to be a player and we want you to play against these people in these situations. You'll go on loan there and we'll see you when you come back. Maybe not quite because they stayed domestically, but similar to Christopher Ayer again. You know, so there's previous patterns that could be repeated, but take a lot of energy and have to work. So I don't think the Lowland League is the problem. I don't think Scottish football and pyramid is the problem. I think it just requires a lot more effort and a lot more of a deliberate approach, really. And I think, you know, we don't have any restrictions that nobody else has, you know. But the best teams give their guy, they just put them in and go, let's see it. You know, that's how Tierney happened, you know, and it just worked. And you all know the stories about him. So I don't disagree entirely. Like the youth setup has obviously got lots of room for improvement, but you need to think about, you know, we're obviously thinking about Champions League players. Like, could we have a Scottish Hatate? Could we have a Scottish, you know, Nicholas Kuhn come out the ranks? That's kind of what we're after when we hear Champions League player. And that's obviously best case scenario, but even that kind of lower, like, that's okay. Well, at least we've got guys like that we're not spending transfer fees on, etc. That's a level that I think we could easily produce, and with the facilities and with jobs and, you know, Sean Maloney's and whatever doing their thing. Now I did want to highlight this. This was all paid for by selling Kieran Tierney to Arsenal, basically, wasn't it?
It looks like it, yeah. I mean, Kobe Donovan's played pretty well recently, but then there's other things like, was it Frame who went to Aberdeen, and there was some sort of chat about he just didn't have any real sort of belief that he would get a game in the team and things like that. And There's definitely some issues in the overall approach as well, because we'll go and we'll sign in a Mura for 250,000. Sometimes we'll play him, sometimes we'll say he's going to go on loan, then he'll not be in squads, he'll be in squads. You've got other guys that we've been sort of signing as well, and then there's guys there like Kobe Donovan who are actually like ready to play in the team, and when Johnson's fit, will he play? Probably not. So that's one of the main issues as well. Are we going to actually find a way to get these guys like active in the squad rather than going and like buying the next project from K-League 2 and that type of thing? So
There has to be squad space. You're dead on.
well, players come and go. We've seen it with Nicholas Kuhn. Players will come and go, and if players are doing really well and they want to go, then they'll, some point they're going to have to move on and things like that. So there's a lot of like rotation in terms of the squads, like generally speaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the demands at Celtic it's a real tough one, because the demands at Celtic you win every week. So it's okay saying that you're going to bring through this brilliant academy and players are going to come through, but if they all come through and they don't actually they don't get any time in the team, they don't get any game time, then mostly they'll leave. So what is the point in spending all that money? The overall facilities much better. That's a good selling point for the club as well. You see a lot of other guys, go and play in Bayern Munich or whatever, because they've got these amazing facilities and everything's all like top notch and everything's all world class in that way. But yeah, let's not go into world class at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a bit moot, isn't it? I was going to pick up something from that as well, but this paragraph totally threw me off. Chris Mackay sought to clarify the supporters' group strategy and asking for confirmation and such concerns related to the strategy itself or the execution of the strategy. And they basically went on to say, that this has been done. They're quite clear on that. Supporters argued that there is a prevailing sentiment within the fan base that the strategy is Rangers +1. There was no recognition of that from the supporters that the club has done anything to become world class, kind of like we've joked about just now. Nicholson and Kai both said Rangers +1 is not the club's strategy. What a lawyery response,
Hearts it's Hearts +1.
It's Rangers +10 and Hearts +1. That's the strategy.
Correct. So it's in the next couple of years we'll need to beat Tony Bloom. That's people don't believe that at the moment, but I mean you've got to give Hearts a bit of respect. Like their signings have been pound for pound better than ours, I would have said. We'll see. It's very early days, but Hearts have improved. So, and there's other stuff happening in Scotland, like Aberdeen getting like Jesper Karlsson.
Jesper Karlsson? Why did we not get Jesper Karlsson, man? I kind of know why. Aberdeen sold Ferguson to Bologna. It's probably an easy phone call to make there. We've not got Bologna's number. That's the problem, We've not got their number. Brendan's not got them in the phone book. Say again.
He used to play for Felon. Some sort of link with Felon or the club.
Oh, they're Swedish. They're both Swedish, so yeah, probably a link there too.
I think he used to play at the club that Felon was at or whatever. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Fair enough then. Maybe that's a wee bit.
I think that's where he came through.
A wee bit of Brendan getting Sinclair, isn't it?
Yeah, Felon's phone book. Which it's a good phone book. I mean, that guy's going to be. He's some player, as Jesper Karlsson.
It's going to be wild in our league. Martin Gilmore from the Northern Ireland, I think that was from. Sorry, I've kind of had to scroll the pages. It was on screen. You'll see it if you want to check it. Suggested that the club lacked players to improve the squad. He also noted the challenge around the B team league and the lack of reserve league, which again I hate. I hate the whole reserve league chat. The reserve league is not the answer, man. And anyone that, with the greatest respect to Martin, where anyone that says reserve league, they just don't know. They just don't know different. They just don't know what else goes on out there. Like I described earlier. And McBride, if we imagine Kobe Donovan as Maxime de Kuyper, think about Maxime de Kuyper's trajectory before being at Bruges and Brighton. He got loaned out to all the crap teams in that division first, and he was playing for all sorts. at 17, 18, 19, just getting minutes, getting reps, cutting his teeth, learning his craft. And then he comes into the Bruges team, goes into the Belgium team, and then Brighton buy him. So the reserve league is not the way, man. And I get the whole nostalgia. I'm from Dumbarton. You maybe you know this, McBride, right? But see the Dumbarton Stadium, it used to have a lot of reserve games at it, mainly Rangers. It must be said. And I lived right at it. And the amount of reserve games I used to go to as a boy was brilliant. You know, consistently like 4 or 5 a season, which was just fun. And used to go up at half time, they'd let you in for free. So I very often only seen second halves. I wouldn't have pocket money or nothing, you know. That's how far back we're going. Good old times in that, eh? And I get the vibe, you know, because I would see Rangers teams, it was mainly Rangers that would be there. And it would be like Bert Conterman and Lorenzo Amoruso and I can't remember, what was the guy, Rickson, you know, like all those guys would be there from time to time, the goalkeeper, strikers, and then a bunch of guys you wouldn't know, and they'd be playing, I don't even know who they'd be playing, to be honest with you. So I get the vibe around it, and you hear all the stories from the ex-pros, but it's just a bygone era. It's just not the game anymore. You know, you do need to have senior players to learn from, don't get me wrong there, but it's not in this development stage of reserve league, youth league, the guy's 18, how do we get more out of him situation, you know? So I just don't like seeing that, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's always confused me why there's no Celtic B or whatever, like in the lower leagues. Just they're never going to be able to play in the same league as Celtic and Rangers are, so they might get to a certain point. But why don't they have a pathway to going into the Championship or whatever? Because a lot of people would go and support those games for a start. I mean, if you call it Celtic in some way, then if it's in the Championship, then you'll get probably a few thousand people going to watch those games along with the other sort of fans at the clubs, and it gives the club a wee bit of control over getting competitive games into younger players. And there definitely is some sort of issue there. You see Celtic are doing a sort of agreement or a deal with a team in Austria in first division or whatever, and it seems to be more going towards like this multi-club structure across different regions and things. And maybe it's good for young players to go away and learn a different culture and learn different methods and things like that. So there might be some merit in that as well. But yeah, I don't know. The game time's definitely a problem for younger guys, and I genuinely do believe guys like Gannon Doak just wanted to actually play in the team, and he's playing for Scotland now, and he plays for Scotland. He looks like Scotland's best player, so it's hard to disagree with him if he says that actually he believed that he should have been playing in the team about a year and a half or 2 years ago, because it's like Scotland's best player already, pretty much. Like, not like, so obviously Andy Robertson, and you know, but like when you watch him play and you think, yeah, he's definitely
Packing talent,
like man of the match type guy. You know,
yeah,
running guys ragged. Yeah,
guy that'll sell some shirts.
Of course, yeah. Still got loads of development in him as well. So
Monty said he was going to block anyone that called him Gannon Doak, by the way. So Monty's going to be blocking you now, McBride. But Monty's coming after me in the chat as well, saying, sounds like you enjoyed seeing the Rangers. I would say 3/4 of the time if I was at one of those Rangers games, because I would just be out and about with my football, and maybe I'd have a friend with me or not or whatever, and I would just see the floodlights were on and go up. So I'd say 3/4 of the time I was probably wearing Celtic tops, you know, for the most part. So I wasn't going there. If anything, I was booing. You know what I mean? But no, I'm just remembering names, you know. So sorry that came off in any way enthusiastic. There you go. I thought this was brilliant. You can see the point that's highlighted. Michael Nicholson noted the points already discussed regarding communications methods, highlighted the recent chief executive report in the club's annual results, which noted the success and also acknowledged that the club did not achieve all of its objectives in the summer window, right? So it's nice that they're kind of owning that. We've said that before, but again, it's not really got follow through. PQ, I'll need to double check who this is, asked when the club last achieved its objectives in the transfer window. Well done, that man. Well done, that man. PQ, where are you? PQ. Paul Quigley. Paul Quigley it is, yeah. Paul Quigley from the CFC again. Well done, that man. Great question, very direct. Michael Nicholson noted that the club has had success in transfer windows. Which ones? and accepted that we had got things wrong, but that the club cannot get involved in commenting on individual players. Michael Nicholson noted that two key concerns had been raised by supporters during the transfer window: timing of transfers and level of investment relative to cash reserves, and the club accepted that its communications on these issues has not been well received.
What communication?
Okay, so he's just... Yeah, exactly. He noted that player recruitment is something the club continually assess, but cannot necessarily share publicly. Now, this is a lie in one sense, right? Because see what I was thinking, right? I said I was talking to Paul John before he went to it a wee bit, and I was thinking if I was there, I would try and record it, but I wouldn't be fly about it. I would just try and just like put my thing on record and just sit on the desk, and just assume it's cool, have I tried that? And when this chat came up, I thought to myself, I would probably just outright say, did we try and sign Tresoldi? Because Brendan kind of half referred to him. And bear in mind, we didn't play Bruges. Bruges played Rangers, and he referred to the fact that they didn't name him. Some people do think it was Carl Forbes Borges he was referring to, but the time scale and everything, it definitely wasn't, in my opinion. And if a transfer like that's concluded, there's no confidentiality. If they went after Nicolo Tresoldi, they can talk about it because he's a Bruges player now, and his situation with the club he came from, etc., is it's expired. It's an out-of-date thing now. He's now a Bruges player. They won't know his Bruges deal. They'll just know the deal they offered and it wasn't accepted, and they can tell us that. So that's not totally true. He is trying to excuse the language. He is trying to bullshit us there on that. Michael Nicholson confirmed the club invested in players for the short, medium, and long term. Short term, Iheanacho, Sirachi. Medium term, Yamada. Long term, Inamura, Osmond.
Yeah, I suppose medium. Tierney signed a 4-year deal, so that's not a short-term deal, is it?
Counting Tierney in this. Well, they probably are, aren't they?
They will be, yeah.
Will be.
He agreed to sign January-ish, didn't he? And I think we did at one point there was talk that we were trying to maybe bring him in a bit earlier, but that never really transpired, and it's just, we'll just wait until the end of his deal and things like that. So even with that as well, there was a weird bit of communication, in terms of how we announced him. Why did it, if he really signed the deal then, why did they not just come out and say, we're confirmed that he'll be joining us at the end of the season? I don't think they ever did that. I mean, it came out that we'd signed them and things, but it wasn't really announced, and I don't know, maybe it was pending medical tests or something, or maybe they just didn't bother with that. Just done like a James Bond and said, he's failed the medical, so we'll just sign him anyway.
Yeah. Supporters felt short, medium, and long-term recruitment in theory looked scattergun in practice, citing the 23-25 summer windows as strong evidence of this. I think it does look scattergun when it's like, I don't mind them buying in Amura whenever they want to, a long-term kind of project situation there. I don't mind that at all. But it can't be at the expense or take anything away from immediate term, which isn't really referenced here. Maybe they just think of it as short term. I'm much more of now, there's like Negren, that's an immediate signing. That's not when I say Iheanacho short term, that's like just the scale of how long he'll be here. That's the way I think of it. Like Iheanacho, and he's not even as old as I'm thinking he is, actually, as I'm saying that. Sirachi, he's going to be here for a short term, Yamada, you'll be here for like 2 years. Inamura, you'll be here for 3 years. That's the way I was thinking of it. When asked if the club has identified what went wrong during the window, Michael Nicholson confirmed an internal process review is ongoing. Mate, it's October the 9th.
Yeah.
Like, this was a few days ago, right? But come on.
We've messed up the Inamura thing. Like, we've signed him and he was playing in the J League. So if the plan was that he wasn't going to play for us, why did we not loan him back to the J League, or find him somewhere to play in? I don't understand that. So that's, you can talk about scattergun and things, but also when you bring somebody in, what is the plan there? You don't put him in the Europa League squad. You don't find him alone. one weekend Rodgers is saying, think we're going to loan this guy out, don't think he's going to play. Next weekend he turns up in the team. The next weekend then we're signing Sriracha in loan. It's quite easy to see why people are thinking there's things not going in the right direction in terms of these different strategies that are supposed to be like going in the same direction. So,
and we know that Boca phoned Celtic and they've just went, will we do this? It'll probably be a bit safer than that in Amura kid, like let's just take the easy win here. So as if they thought, like you say, they've not done anything proactively in that regard, have they? So
no, that's not strategy. Like, that's not, I mean,
nah. Would you even call that a half-finished job?
It's not that. So like, if the manager is agreeing these players at the point where he agrees that the guy's coming in, at that point he should know what the plan is for that player. So he came in, he played pre-season, and Rodgers said the plan was always thinks to loan him out. We've got to the end of the window. He's not in the Europa squad. He doesn't feature in squads, and he's not been loaned out either. What are we doing with that guy's career? He's moved over here. He should be playing somewhere. So that's just that to me is just wild. Yamada I can understand a bit more because Yamada came in, he played a few games, got his chance a wee bit, but then he never went in the squad because of space and because we signed Iheanacho. But Inamura is a young guy who's played like one season of professional football after coming out of a like university or whatever, so he should be playing. Not like I don't understand that at all. So
it's negligence.
There's things like that just look really quite stupid in terms of how the manager and the board and the transfers and everything are all interacting, because they said earlier they don't comment on football operations, let the manager do it. That's fine, but the manager's often saying stuff that sort of almost undermines what they've been doing. In January, he said he wanted a striker, didn't sign a striker. Came to the summer, said wanted to get the business done, never get the business done. Sprung into action after getting knocked out of Europe, started signing people after the Champions League thing. If we'd have had Tanek in or whatever before that game, with a better chance of winning. It's just wild how that all worked out. Yeah, we did do some business earlier this summer, but guys who weren't ready to play in the team. Callum Osmond doesn't play, doesn't get on benches. Guys like that were signed. They might well be guys for the future, but completely irrelevant in terms of that Champions League qualifier.
Yeah, completely. Roscoe, are you Ross Breedy? By any chance, Roscoe's talking like he's got a bit more insight than what's in this. So just looking for clarity on that. I think we're on page 4, weren't we? Yeah, we're down here. Now this is something I wanted to kind of tackle. You're probably a great person to talk about this, McBride, right? After the internal review chat, it says here they'll examine what went right and wrong and examine the relevant factors, including the players' personal career objectives, which is Champions League football, which he's trying to say like, nobody will come to us until Champions League is confirmed, which we know is horseshit. Overall, it's not. I'm sure it is a factor in some cases, but it's not the be all and end all, right? The buying club's aims. Well, we're the buying club, so like we know what our aims are. We don't really need to review that, surely. Agents, taxation, Belgium and German tax systems were compared with the UK, right? Now, I don't know what you take this to mean, but I take this to mean like, let's say you've got a 1.2 million euro salary, which is 15 grand a week. That's the maths I did. 1.210 it is, but let's just say 1.2 euro salary, Germany tax, right? Does this give us an answer? 45% above that. Okay, so it's 45% for them. UK.
Be 50 one.
Is it 50?
I think so. Is it 45 as well?
Yeah, I'll just see a 50 here.
It's also 45. I don't know what they mean by that. You would need to... Yeah, additional rate 45% over 125,000. So...
There must be another one if you make jiggers. No, I don't know. And then what was the other one? Belgium. Now that tells us that they were talking to clubs in Germany and Belgium. Valid question. Fair enough.
Or players that end up going there. So maybe you offer a player, you know, I don't know, 30,000 a week, and they say, well, I'm taking home 20,000 a week, and Club Brugge offer them 30,000 a week and they take home 25 or something. But yeah,
something like that. Yeah, so that's the only thing I can think about when it comes to the taxation element of it all. Like, you know, and that's not like a factor. That's not like a barrier, you know. Like, there's different tax brackets in different countries. Get with it, you know. So when I read this, it feels like, oh, we were offering somebody 20 grand a week, but the 20 grand a week from Belgium is worth more than the 20 grand a week from Scotland. If that's the case, man, you do the 22 grand a week, don't you, and just fucking deal with it.
You would have thought so. Forbes went for, I think, about 7 or 8 million euros to Bruges. Now, the thing is, if a player's offered a chance to go to Bruges, or us at the moment, Bruges play in the Champions League every season, and they absolutely battered Rangers in the qualifiers, and, you know, I would say they're better run than Celtic. So if that guy thinks that going to Bruges is a better step for him to play in the Champions League and then move on, hopefully, well, he's moved backwards because he was at Man City. But, I mean, in terms of getting himself into a top club or a top league or whatever, then I don't see what we can do about that. But what Celtic were building was they were building this thing where you would sign Matt O'Reilly, you would sign Jota, you would get guys in, and then they were going for the big fees, and they were going... Matt O'Reilly went to Premier League. So if you're going to do this whole thing and you're trying to convince this guy, Forbes or whatever, to sign, then if you're having that meeting with him, you say, look, we've got guys like Matt O'Reilly, we sold him right over to Brighton, he's now playing for Marseille or whatever, and basically that's the way we're going to do our business. So that should be the selling point, right? Like, if these guys have really got the sort of overall objective for their career to say we're going to come to Celtic for a while and develop and be sold on and that type of thing. But yeah, I'm not buying that, like, that whole tax thing. It's not as if like Germany or Belgium or like Monaco or like tax
Saudi Arabia or something.
I know, it's like that's
probably the number one thing in the Gerrard discussion now, because he's sitting there now on gardening leave on some sort of juicy contract. So you'll probably be saying to Rangers, you're going to need to soften this tax blow I'm going to have coming back to the UK too early with all these Saudi millions. Sorry to bring him into that. Sorry, but Roscoe 5 has been in the chat. Roscoe seems to have some insight, right? So feel free to keep up with Roscoe in the chat. Hit the like button if you've not done so already. Jungle Gyms are falling in our droves, catching up with us here on this one. But yeah, I think this is a real bogus excuse. As examples of variables at play, Roscoe also said that it's maybe tax breaks come into it more favourably in these countries versus the UK for higher earners or athletes, maybe, or I'm just imagining and inferring between the lines, perhaps.
Yeah.
So supporters acknowledged these various factors, but highlighted their opinion that the club did not complete business early in the transfer window and is therefore not ready for UEFA qualifying matches, and sought to response for the club as to why transfers were not conducted sooner. Michael Nicholson sought to reassure attendees that the club's objective is to complete its transfer business as soon as possible in the window, and highlighted Negren and Tierney. Tierney, who was a free agent pre-contract, and Negren, who we basically get paid to take. He was that cheap, you know, like we absolutely want to watch with him. A real unicorn situation, a top player about to be out of contract at a weird time, and the hosting club were just totally bent over the barrel. He jumped at the chance to come to us, the Swedish connection kicking in there a little bit, and to attract the best players available to the club within the window, and that the club's model allows for investment to be made when needed. The club did not accept that there is a disconnect between the board and the manager, or that a transfer policy needs a fundamental overhaul. Martin McGI, it wasn't Gemmell, it was Martin GI. Was Gilmore, Martin Gilmore of the North of Ireland Supporters Clubs from earlier. He's back in again. Good to see you, Martin McGI. Asked whether the club would look at using ex-employees in a way that other clubs do, such as Ajax. Martin Nicholson noted that the club is open to all suggestions. Oh, I'd love to have made some suggestions. I wonder if that happened. Michael Nicholson noted that the club heard the need for better communications. The point was made that it's not just communications that were the problem, but the strategy itself. Michael Nicholson noted that performance in the Champions League last season, as well as the trophies that have been won, is evidence of the club's performance. Martin Gemmell said that the nature of the Scottish football means Celtic have a licence to play in Europe every year, and one of the reasons Celtic entering the group stages automatically last season was our rivals' European performances rather than our own. Michael Nicholson disagreed, and Paul Quigley pressed on whether he felt results in Europe were satisfactory. Quigley getting right in there. Love that. Michael Nicholson felt they were. Interesting. Referring to qualification from the group stage, football in 19 out of...
Oh, that's just a load of shite, isn't it? That's just a load. We're
that's
in group
including
stage
Europa League.
We're in football. That's a lot of shit. Honestly, that is nonsense. With Celtic's budget, it's like automatic qualification. Honestly, that's just a load of rubbish. I mean, I don't. This is why they're losing the fans. So you look at that and you just think that is just utter garbage. Honestly,
it's wild.
Look, if you look at the budget that Celtic have got and the amount of money that Celtic have got, how much is spent in transfers and things, like you're just automatically in some sort of group stage football just by virtue of the fact that you're turning up every week. It's nearly impossible not to get into Europe. So that's no sign of success whatsoever. Just don't agree with any of that at all. And there definitely is a bit of a disconnect. And we did better last season, fair dues, but that game that we played against Kairat was arguably more important than the game against Bayern for reasons of getting into the whole competition or whatever proper and the money that comes with that. And maybe even if they're right that some guys maybe won't come unless there's Champions League football on the line. So why didn't we sign any actual like first team ready players before that? Okay, like Tierney and Nygren played in those games, that's fair enough. But what we've been doing is systematically selling guys like Kyogo. Manager says you want a striker, don't sign one. Sell Nicholas Kuhn. Nicholas Kuhn was the best winger at the club last season. Loads of goal contributions. Good against Leipzig. Good against Bayern Munich. He scored away from home. Sell him. Don't replace him at all. Not even in terms of numbers. Like
I think in their head, Ben is Kuhn's replacement because they thought he was the right winger, and Brendan had to really come out and say he's no right winger. He's my midfielder now.
But
it's not an excuse. I'm just adding that in.
I know, I get that, but even if he is, Negren's a good player and he does some stuff pretty well, but he's nowhere near the player that Nicholas Kuhn was, because Kuhn was really quite explosive and he was quick and he gave us certain things and he scored goals and he got assists. So Nygren's come in and he's got some of the goals and the assists, but he's not the same type of player, doesn't play in the same type of position. Even if you watch North Island or whatever, if he played a bit more advanced, he didn't really play as a winger. He played more as like a number 10 or 2 10s behind the striker or whatever. He didn't play out in the wing. So, like, we definitely didn't replace that position at all. Yang apparently was in Birmingham and was told at the start of the window he could go. So if we really needed 2 right wingers, why did we not sign any right wingers? That's just completely negligent. I mean, when the thing came in for Kuhn, they just shoveled them out straight away and said, that's fine, we'll just take the money, on you go. No problem whatsoever, on you go, that's great, we'll take the money. But we didn't actually have somebody else lined up. But then we go and we try and sign somebody else, and the other clubs are all saying, we can't sell this guy until we get a replacement. Why do we not operate like that? Why didn't we say to Nicholas Kuhn, yeah, you can definitely go to Como, but if we don't get a replacement in, you're going to have to play these Champions League qualifiers or whatever for us, then go at the end of the window. That was never in the conversation. It was just, yes, we'll take our 17 million euros.
I think Negren is, in their eyes, the replacement. I think they've got Negren and thought he's a right winger. That's the only thing I would. I'm not even pushing, but it's just that I can't. I can't go along with you on that because my instinct is saying I think they thought he was going to be a right winger. You know.
Well, that just shows you that they don't know anything about.
Yeah, totally.
So,
totally.
like,
totally.
They don't know anything about recruitment. Then if they've watched him, they think that he's a replacement for Kuhn, then they're also to blame. So,
I'm with you. I'm with you all the way. I've got a feeling that they thought, oh, that's the Kuhn replacement for a minute. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Let's just get him out in Nordisland. Oh, that's easy. On you go, Nicholas. You can go to Italy. You know, see you later. I just kind of, I just believe that's what happened, kind of, you know, which is again negligent. They don't really know the player, etc. The view was expressed that if the club thinks that the level of performance is acceptable, then that is a concern. The club maintained that the strategy was broadly working, but there are things they could do better. Supporter groups noted there are concerns the development and/or acquisition of Champions League ready players, together with concerns that players are being identified and acquired by the club's recruitment team and thereafter not making their way into the first team squad. Michael Nicholson noted that he cannot comment on specific players, but that the club looks to the short, medium, and long term for player acquisitions, as well as through the academy. And the Celtic's objective and strategy is to continue to improve its operations in this respect. The Celtic Fan Collective noted that it was believed that the current first-team squad largely centred around first-team ready players that were acquired under the club's previous manager, and that there was a belief among supporters that more recent acquisitions were not the same calibre. There's a lot to kind of just touch on quickly there. I'll just try and do it concisely, so I think there's a lot more to come. This is still only question 1, but we are on page 5 out of 10. We've kind of rattled through a lot of it quite quickly in some ways as I look at the time on the clock. If you need to go, McBride, of course, let me know.
No, I'm okay.
But the short, medium, long term, I'm all behind that. And I say this in every transfer window when we do buy random guys, but you do need to buy random guys, you know, to get players coming through that you could send them out on loan, they could come good for you. Inamura looked good in pre-season. If we never got Sriracha, Inamura would maybe be in amongst it. It might not be great for us, right? It might, whatever, but you need random guys. Nicholas Kuhn you could think of in that way, perhaps, although I do think he was a bit more of a short-term thing rather than a long-term thing. But I get that, but it feels like they really hide behind that so that if we say somebody looks like they're not helping the first team now, it's like, oh, well, he's a long-term guy. Give him a time. He'll be fine. We're looking at the long term for that one, you know. So don't judge us on him. He wasn't meant to be first team ready. Feels like that, you know. And the academy and all the rest of it. Yeah, so him saying he can't comment on specific players is weak. He's the CEO. You know, who's the Barcelona CEO again? Tebas or something? He comments on players all the time. You know, like all of them do. They're runner of the company. They're the CEO. They are the boss. You know.
Yeah.
He can. Now I get he maybe doesn't want to stand on the toes of the football people. I get he's maybe trying to be. There's maybe an element of him that is trying to play that respect. But there's a point where the chips are down, the cards are on the table, boys. Right? Listen, lads. We thought Yamada was Kyogo. We thought that was going to happen. He got here, and do you know what? He isn't. We're sorry. He could have said that. And I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm just saying as an example of he could say something, you know, like if he wanted to. It's within his remit, it's within his gift, it's within his wheelhouse without it being disrespectful or standing on toes, I would say. Yeah. The discussion's also centered around the question of whether the club's strategy is accurate insofar as it refers to the creation of the Champions League players. Chris Mackay highlighted some of the club's most successful homegrown Champions League players. So he sat there and went Callum McGregor, Kieran Tierney, didn't he? And the role that both coaching the facilities at academy level and player development referencing. Yeah, and again, like they're hiding behind it, but they can hide behind this for me. Like, fine. But you can't say Callum McGregor and Kieran Tierney. Like, you can't do that. Like, they're not relevant in this conversation anymore. The importance for a stable domestic season was also highlighted insofar opportunities for the first team manager to introduce academy players. Nicholson said our performances in Europe last season followed on the application of the club model over a number of years. Martin Gemmell said that last year's performance was an anomaly. I do disagree with that, but it's hard to when we're in the Europa League. A brief discussion took place among supporter groups regarding comments directed at both former and current players on social media. This factor was understood by Martin G.I. to be considered. I can't remember. And players leaving the club or
Northern Ireland guy, wasn't he?
Gilmore.
Yeah, Gilmore.
Question 2, why has there not been investment in critical positions despite repeated pleas from the manager, obvious weaknesses in the squad? It was noted that this question had been discussed. Okay. Question 3.
I don't think it was, but anyway.
No, it wasn't, man. It was danced around, wasn't it? Like, really, so that's kind of 2 in 1, isn't it? It's all about... That's meaty there, isn't it? Where did that start? Club's long-term football strategy and how will it be communicated. They're saying we communicate it all the time, and they have just basically repeated themselves, the same crap we've heard from them a handful of times at this point. And then the second question is, we've not improved in critical positions. So they've mentioned the tax thing. Again, I don't know if this I just got Tresoldi in my head, right? But see this. Tresoldi was in Bundesliga 2 and went to Belgium. See if there's some sort of like moving to Belgium tax break that you get from Germany or something or whatever. See if that's the reason we never got Tresoldi. That is crazy, you know.
I think the reason will be because
Tresoldi's 5 million, bona fide wonder kid.
Club Brugge playing the Champions League 7 out of 8 seasons,
but they had qualifiers like we did, the same amount.
Celtic only get
when
in.
He moved when the Gren moved, right at the beginning of the window.
Yeah, Celtic only get in, like, they only get in when they're in automatically, and apart from that, our qualifiers sort of, it's just been terrible. So we usually lose them. That's over the course of time. We've got a really bad record in qualifiers. Like, we lose much more of them than we actually win. So that's something that needs to be improved. With the budget that we've got a bigger budget than Club Brugge, so we should be doing better, or we should be doing similar. They're really good.
They shouldn't be out muscling us in a deal on tax implications.
Yeah, but I think I said before, Quinny, like they went and signed the guy Diakon from France League 2, and he's a really pacey, quick winger type of guy that Rodgers would like. That would have been good to replace Nicholas Kuhn. So if what you're saying is right, they might have thought that Negren was like a replacement for Nicholas Kuhn, then they were completely wrong with that. And Rodgers always comes on and starts talking about his buzzwords, doesn't he? Pace and power and these things. So you've got to wonder if he's going and identifying those guys, why we can't actually sign some of those guys that are like that. So even if you look at Hearts, like Tony Bloom and all the analytics stuff, they'll go and sign guys like Kajota, Kabore, Claudio Braga. They might take them from a lot lower leagues, but they work on the analytics and guys who are getting good goals and assists and give them the pathway to actually step up a bit. And people can say, oh, well, that's a load of rubbish and things. But USG beat PSV 3-1 away from home. They had guys signed from the Estonian league. They put out a full team that cost them about 17 or 18 million in total. Bear in mind, we spent about 25 million or something the last transfer window on Engels, Trusty, and who was the other one that we signed last season? Ida. He's away already. So they've spent that amount of money. They've also beat Bruges to the league, and they're winning games in the Champions League, and they make like good buys all the time. So, like, I don't know. I don't agree with it. Profile wise, the guys that we're buying just doesn't really seem to add up to what we're trying to do, because playing this system where we need wingers and a bit of pace and things there or something, somebody can unlock the door, somebody can run past somebody, and we haven't really, until we got to Necti, really signed any of them. So even Balawisha, I like Balawisha, but is he a winger? Not really, no. So
not the winger Rodgers wants anyway.
No.
You know?
So
a few great comments. Roscoe, I started off like, oh, this guy has got a wee bit of insight. I now really hope that you're just trolling, because I really hope this Battlefield thing is everything they're hiding behind. Because see if it is what you say it is, then this is all going to blow back on them. Like, see if we go in there and it looks like a David Lloyd Centre or something like that. You know, it doesn't look like a sports science department, you know. Like, oh, jibbies, man. So yeah, let's see. I really hope you're a troll now, Roscoe. I'm sorry. In the best possible way. In the best possible way.
It probably
I'm sure
isn't
you're
in the
not.
top.
But in my head,
Probably
I'm
isn't
paid
in the
for it.
top 20, Quinny, but look at the Champions League. How many teams are in the Champions League? Is it 36 or something? So there's a lot of teams that have got a lot more money than Celtic. If it's not in the top 20, it's not in the top 20. But we spent 20 million on it. We didn't spend 200 million on it. So
yeah, fair. So we're building a David Lloyd. Bruges is back for all homegrown players, right? And outside of Brandon Michele, you may want to add Mignelli into that if you include the whole defence. But the rest of those guys have, well, maybe one or two of them have went straight into the team, but a bunch of them, again, they get lots of minutes very early on, whether it be in the first team or I think a lot of the ones they actually have now have been dripped into the first team. I don't think Sabe, Seas, or Spielers went on loan anywhere. I think they've just been in Bruges and kind of just got wee minutes. And probably look at them, they've probably played like 6 games a year for 3 years, waiting for Bruges to sell other guys and let them get their chance in. So again, no reserve league needed. And yeah, they will probably make about 80 million off not Michele, because they won't be selling him, but the rest of them certainly. And I really hope we get to that, Simon Fideni. I really do hope we get to that. And what accountability measures are in place for repeated failures in the transfer dealings? Maybe this is a bit. Accountability to fans in relation for transfer activity were discussed. Michael Nicholson noted the executive and footballing teams are accountable to the PLC board. Nicholson reinstated the importance of maintaining confidentiality regarding transfer dealings, but noted the desire for further communication regarding strategy and would take this forward. Non-answer. The CFC sought commitments from the club regarding disclosure and transparency of internal review process and further improvements, and sought to clarify any individuals will be removed from their position following the summer transfer window. As said, when the transfer window closed, somebody has to get sacked for this, and I do stand by that. We were eliminated from the Champions League. Our squad is markedly weaker, and I don't want to be a doom merchant, but 2 bad results, and we're under the cosh to Hearts, the way the league sits right now, And I say I don't want to be a doom merchant, and I don't want to put that out there into the zeitgeist, right? So I'll just say it here and forget about it quickly. But seriously, whoever's in charge of that window, their heads roll. This is, especially if they want to be like, oh, we're a big company and act like capitalists. It's a results game. Roscoe did say that the report that I was it looked like it hadn't been put together. He said that it has been put together, but it's now with the higher ups. It's taken a full month to get there. So maybe they're a bit naive to details, and that's why they're not giving us anything, and they keep hiding behind fucking confidentiality or whatever. Why do this meeting if that's even the case? Chris Mackay stated that the club would not communicate on the detail of individual performance. Michael Nicholson reiterated that it was accepted that the club did not meet its objectives in the recent window, and the club will carry out an internal review, implement learnings. Quigley, back at it again, asked whether the club could take broad lessons and then outline what these are. Great question. Mackay stated that the club will think about how it can best communicate. Frustration was expressed. They will look at this and come back to you, and it's the same old story.
Yeah.
And further, it's not just a question of communications, it's a matter of what will change. While specific details regarding review process and further improvements could not be shared to the extent requested, due to the importance of maintaining confidentiality of club operations and not prejudicing its position within the market, Nicholson commented and committed to the continued review of fan communications, providing further info and supporters in an appropriate manner. Discussion then turned to the accountability measures currently in place at Celtic. The CFC noted the tenure of a number of non-exec directors and the election of club's former chief exec and chairman, noting that many within the group believe that this is not appropriate from a corporate governance perspective. Other supporters echoed these comments, noting the designation maximum tenure in line with UK corporate governance code. Supporters also highlighted the importance of independence, asking if it was believed all NEDs, non-executive directors, remained independent notwithstanding their length of service. Mackay advised the club adopts the QCA code. Can you translate that, McBride?
I don't know what that is. No, it's probably just a general company code. So
yeah, that's fine.
Q will be quality, I would imagine, in some way. Ones quality company. I don't know. QCA code.
Corporate governance code. refers to the Corporate Governance Code, a set of principles for growing companies developed by the quoted
Companies Alliance.
This flexible, principle-based approach helps companies run better for their stakeholders, covering areas like corporate purpose, risk management, board effectiveness, I doubt that, and environmental and social responsibilities. The code is widely adopted by companies listed in the AIM market, the main market, and private companies may go public in the future. Key aspects of the QCA code purpose to guide growing companies. So we're a growing company.
It's a public limited company. I mean, that's what I was going to say as well earlier. They were talking about prejudice in their position with transfers and all that sort of stuff, but Celtic have to publish accounts. We know how much we paid in corporation tax, know how much money they've made in profit, and know how much cash at the bank and everything they've got. Like, they disclose all of that. So people know we've got money. In the same way as if you own somebody, sell somebody to Man United, they know that they've been overpaying players for many a year, and they just, somebody who's worth 30 or 40 million, Man United come in and they ask them for 60 or 70, and eventually they just end up paying it because they're just badly run. So if you do a search on the internet on Celtic and try to get into the what's going on with the financials, you'll get all the information just by searching Google.
Yep.
Not that hard. So
yeah, more sleekness is some of the chat that's going on around that in here. I do get we're a growing company in the sense that like we are acquiring more money all the time, and we should be expanding in a lot of ways. But I don't think the club is categorized as a growing company, like a startup. That's what the vibe is to me there. Which now requires all board members to stand for election annually at the Celtic PLC AMG. Wow. So if you own Celtic shares, these votes are now going to be quite important. Michael Nicholson added that the matter of independence is also assessed by the board as a part of annual board governance process. He also noted that whilst he recognised supporters' individual beliefs have been in their role for too long, there was value in maintaining stability and experience in a sector as volatile as football. There is maybe some merit to that, but that's definitely a scale situation, isn't it? Like, who do you really need for that? You don't need the whole body of the crew, do you? The view was expressed that the last increase to season ticket prices when the club has money in the bank and there's a cost of living crisis shows there's no meaningful engagement. Also, the managers criticised the transfer strategy. Club captain said we need bodies. Ticket pricing was discussed.
Bit of disgrace, really, isn't it? 45 quid and then there was no concessions. So if you want to take your kids to a guy taking 2 boys or whatever, then you're talking about what's 135 quid for a game.
This is mate, it's wild. This is, again, like, how can you say this to people? We have the cheapest Europa League package in the UK. Who else is in the Europa League in the UK? Us, them, Villa, Nottingham Forest,
Palace. Did they go in the conference or?
Palace or conference. So there's like 4 or 5 British teams, and 3 of them are Premier League teams. So we're a bit cheaper than them, who are skint. You know what I mean?
I know. It's just there's just an overall sort of attitude towards things here, and it's like as if the fans are being commoditized, and they're having these meetings and saying, "Oh, we'll engage with the fans and things." But if you're not actually willing to take on board the feedback and make any changes or whatever, then it's not going to work, is it? I mean, this overall thing, we're talking about strategy and what the world's changing. So there'll be this, lots of people have been at Celtic Park and they've had their season tickets for many a year or whatever, but at some point that will change to subsequent generations and things. So how do you encourage the next generation to come through when, they can't go to the Europa League games because, the young guy's dad's looking at it and going, this is going to cost me 90 quid on a Thursday night at 5:45 to go and watch Braga. So, no real... Yeah, there we go. What else can you say about that? I don't know. I mean...
Yeah. Like Braga, they could have just made that dirt cheap. And Martin Gilmore comes back at it again, by the way, and Chris Mackay says they'll think about it. What you mentioned, concession pricing and stuff like that for Europa League, because it's just not been done. And you can imagine they've just not even thought to do it, perhaps. RB. Oh, I've got a new character. Got what page we're on, but we'll find it. RB.
Ross Brady.
Oh yeah, we had a Ross, didn't we? Where was he? I can't see
Ross
him now.
Brady, Celtic
Ross
fans.
Breedy. Ross Breedy from the CFC. I think this is like page 7 we're at now. Is it 6? There it's there.
Still
Said
more
explanations.
Scotland.
Said the explanations given by the club at the meeting mirrored information already provided at the fan forum. Yeah, they're saying nothing new. Well done, mate. And this prompted concerns that fan input wasn't being taken seriously. Like, you're mugging us off here. What would undermine representatives when feeding back to members? The collective described that this is another example of the club's disconnect. Yeah, you guys have just sat here and said nothing. That's kind of what they're saying there, isn't it? Stressing that working class supporters should not bear the financial burden of poor board decisions. How do you intend to modernise the club structure to compete in Europe? Nicholson stated that the club did not accept the premise of the question. How do you intend to modernise the club structure to compete in Europe? Where he just said the problem was tax problems. So there's, and other stuff that's confidential that we can't be told about. And why we are consistently unprepared for qualification stages. That is very well documented. Michael Nicholson stated that the club did not accept the premise of the question. Further, sorry, you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's just rubbish, isn't it? Like, I mean,
that's wild.
Oh, sorry, we're not answering that question, and let's make up a clever reason why we're not accepting that question. Whatever.
Even the notion of this question is bizarre. It's crazy. It's unfounded. It's a conspiracy theory or something. You know, it's a lot of social media propaganda.
It's factual, buddy. It's factual.
I know.
We
are extremely
always
sarcastic.
Unprepared. Sorry. We're always unprepared for qualification stages. It's everybody you speak to. You can even think back to the point where we had like Near Beaton playing centre half and everything, and players injured and still didn't bring guys in, and we like historically have always been underprepared for those stages. Our record in those stages is horrendous. Compare with Club Brugge. Sometimes they get in automatically, sometimes they don't. But Club Brugge played in Europe Champions League 7 out of 8 seasons, whereas Celtic getting into the group stages of recent has not really been like that. So yeah, and when we have been there, there've been years where we were terrible as well. You know, couldn't even win home games, and so.
In defence, he kind of goes on to say Tisdale has now been appointed in the last year or whatever. The O'Day for Maloney situation. Supporter groups also reiterated their desire for continued communication and engagement so that the wider supporter base understand the steps the club is taking to develop the strategy. It is being noted that some supporters do not believe that current arrangements, B team and reserve league, are suitable, highlighting the loss of young players to English teams at a young age. Nicholson noted this was a good example of the transfer factors discussed earlier, and that the increased movement of youth players to England is linked to Brexit, which led to the UK being locked out of European markets, Scotland locked in a market with England. Nicholson and Mackay explained that these changes have been a factor in developing the new roles of head of football operations, professional pathway manager, to undertake recent development at the club's Barrowfield. Nicholson highlighted that these developments all tie into the longer-term strategy. Now, that is somewhat interesting, right? But again, a bit of a cop-out. It's the migration of youth players. Now, youth players can't really travel that far anyway. You know, like, UEFA, because of Chelsea, like Chelsea were borderline people trafficking under Roman Abramovich. Really, if you look at their transfer activity, it was wild. And UEFA brought in, maybe FIFA, they brought in a law where like you can't join a club that's more than, I'm going to say 60, but it might be 30 miles away. Unless there's like a natural from where you live. So if you live in Glasgow, you can't move to. I don't know, it's obviously different for like London. It must be more than 60 miles, but you can't move. Like, you can't take a Brazilian kid at 15 and take him to Chelsea. You can't take a guy from Italy at 14 and from Italy to Chelsea, unless, and this is how Abramovich got away with it, unless their parents are just moving there anyway. You know, like the dad's a plumber, and he's like, "I'm going to go be a plumber in London." Oh, but my son's brilliant at football. You know. So that's how that Chelsea kind of massaged the rules as they came through and whatever. So I only see this as like affecting that. If you're talking about us having our pocket picked from England and the repercussion that has and the markets that we're locked into and stuff like that, I don't see how that, and Brexit as well. Come on, man. Like, That's all. That should be standard processing now. Like Brexit is yesterday's news and then some at this point.
I actually agree with this point, Quinny, so I do apologise for disagreeing with you, but I do agree with that.
No?
Because
Okay.
what used to happen is like Man United and things or Arsenal used to sign guys like Cesc Fabregas, etc., and it was all due to the freedom of movement stuff in Europe.
Yeah.
So a lot of those teams would just look for the best young players anywhere in Europe. So now what happens is if they want to get good young players into their youth development, then they need to look at Scotland more. I mean, they did anyway, because remember Billy Gilmore went to Chelsea from Rangers, and then Chelsea got fined for it because there was a transfer fee involved and he was only 15 and stuff. So they did already, but I do think that actually that has played a wee bit of a factor, because those teams down there can't sign those guys at certain ages. I think it's under 18 now or whatever. I don't know the exact rules. So, and we lost Doak because there was all eyes were on, like him, and he'd been in squads and things. Ange put him in the squad. I think he was in the squad against Rangers or something. He played for the first team and things, and we weren't able to convince him that he could just like go into the team and get games and things, and he just decided he was going to go away down south and do something differently. So I do sort of agree with that, but also highlights that if that is the case and we are really vulnerable in losing players to England, then for spending this 20 million on the youth setup and everything, then when these guys come through and these Champions League level players come through, how are we going to keep a hold of them? That's it's definitely
to actually be in the Champions League, there needs to be space in the squad for them.
Yeah,
fair enough. I accept that England now maybe looks at us more, but we've also, McBride, lost like 3 or 4 guys in the last 5 years to Bayern Munich. Like, how many times have you heard like Bayern Munich signed random guy out the academy you've never heard of? Liam Morrison, who I think is actually doing really well at QPR now, and there's another one or two, I forget the names, the chat will know. And even like I seen a guy, what's his name? You might not be young enough for this, but I'm sure there's a guy I seen in Sweden today that's kicking ass. It's Scottish. He plays for a rubbish team, like someone quite low level, like Saundersland or something. But like, and I do think some of this is interesting, and there's probably there must be some truth in some of it in terms of the elements, but it feels like they're hiding behind jargon and red tape and paperwork and pathway managers.
does a wee bit, aye. It does a wee bit. I mean, it sounds a wee bit like excuse making. Like, I think that with some of these guys coming through, if they were better treated, or like we said with Doak, if we just made sure that he was in the first. Look at Dane Murray just now. Dane Murray's got some games. He's signed a contract. Ben Doak's obviously better than Dane Murray, you'd have said. But long term, don't know, because Dane Murray's had some bad injuries and they might develop into a really good player. But Ben Doak should have been in the team. I think Ange really wanted him in the team as well. He could see how good he was, and he could.
The chat is Ange didn't know who he was until Liverpool were about to get him, and then he's tried to like rescue it. Apparently,
yeah, but the club really. If you look at how good he is, then the club should have made the manager aware. Maybe you could argue that he should have been aware, but also somebody should be going to the manager and saying,
totally.
"A guy through here and he's an absolute cracker, and we need to make sure there's space for him coming through into the team, because this guy's class." And 6 months after that or whatever, he was playing for Scotland and things. So yeah, they should have recognised that, surely. But anyway.
Sanfran, I'm kind of with you there as well, because when I read them talking about that, I think though that only implicates these players that are getting tapped up that we're talking about, and you guys are mentioning in the chat, Hepburn and Morrisons and Dokes and all these types of ones. And yeah, we have like, we paid money, quite a significant amount of money in this context. We didn't get like, what was O'Reilly, a million and a bit. Musa was like 800 or something. We didn't get that for Hepburn and Morrison and Doak. We got pennies by comparison,
300,000 or something, I think, for Doak.
But I think that's kind of what the Callum Osmond thing is he was like the Cummings replacement, basically, and that's why he's in the B team, So again, like, I don't think that's really an element of what people are talking about is like these Brexit policies and the youth development thing that we're talking about just now, the migration of it's all we're talking about when it's talking about the modernization of the club structure to compete in Europe. I think that's a bit of a deflection. Chris Mackay explained that these changes have been a factor in developing new roles. Oh yeah, I think I read that, but sorry. This is the bit I was excited to see. The club were asked to confirm who's responsible for conducting football transfers, including if the chief executive and CFO were directly involved in the same. Support groups also sought confirmation as to who values players and agrees commercial terms. Chris Mackay explained that it's a multidisciplinary approach is taken, which just feels like an absolute cop-out. This approach is led by the football department, who identifies players with the executive team concluding transactions. This was noted by Michael Nicholson as not being unusual within football clubs. JG, let's see who that is. We're on page 7. JG is Joe Gallagher of the CSA there. So we'll go back to page 7. Asked if the football manager sanctioned all the signings, Michael Nicholson confirmed that he did. Martin Gemmell asked why the manager referred to some of the signings as club signings. And here's the headline we've all seen across the Twitter sphere. Michael Nicholson shrugged his shoulders. Like, I'm just not even going to answer you.
Yeah. But then they'll argue there's no disconnect.
Yeah.
So, Quinny, you asked me a question. You asked me a question.
Emoji there, shouldn't they?
And I just say,
that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, no disconnect here. It's fine.
It's a frank discussion, you know. You're calling the manager a liar. You know.
There's obviously disconnects and probably like Brendan Rodgers often talks about needing this done or that done, and I need to convince the board to do this, and he says stuff like that. He says stuff like, I need to convince the board to do this. So that tells me that actually there's guys that he really would have wanted, but they won't go for them, or they won't pay the money for them, or they won't be. He referred to them as needing to be a bit braver. So he obviously thinks as a manager that they're too cautious with things. It's not. I don't think it's in these questions. I don't know if it is. Can't remember what the other questions were, but I seen that there was a report that just completely rubbished their thing, that they said that they needed to be careful for the profit and sustainability rules or whatever. Like, absolutely nowhere near them at all. This rainy day rubbish. Like, you know, those are all like accountants things. I was slagging off accountants, but you know, accountants are like all do with like money and profits, and you know, and let's make sure we're okay for a rainy day and all that sort of stuff. But this is a football club, and we've got like £80 million in the bank, so we should have been able to sign some players in time for that crucial Champions League qualifier that's worth about an extra 35 million or something to the club over and above the Europa. So, and really important apparently in attracting players to the club. But yeah, I would just shrug our shoulders. It's fine. Let's move on.
It's quite obvious. Like, Brendan maybe, like, I remember the press conference when Brendan came back, which I was at, which I always bring up, right? Sorry. But he did say that he knows from the last time he was here, the biggest part of his job is saying no to players. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that he did say from day one. That's a big part of his job now. So this is maybe a half truth in the sense of like, Rodgers doesn't say, oh no, this guy's nah, don't even, you know, he's not against them, you know, but he's already explained 3 or 4 times, short, medium, and long term. He could easily say something here like, the manager is not involved in long-term strategy. The manager's involved in short to medium-term strategy. But he doesn't. He shrugs his shoulders. You know, he's clearly not telling us something here, you know, and to just shrug your shoulders, like, it deserves the traction it's got, I think. Discussions turn to the valuation of players. Nicholson and Mackay, sorry to clear my nose in a second, explained how the process operates, factors are considered. You can read this if you want. It's a bit of gibberish, basically. They don't really say anything. I'll clear my nose.
Applicable ceiling and player costs. Nicholson confirmed the valuations formed part of the overall discussion regarding the player and evaluation said player against all rev. What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. We weigh up everything before valuing them, just a lot of nothing. Supporter groups questioned the involvement of Neds within the transfer process. Mackay and Nicholson confirmed that player trading above certain financial values require approval from the Celtic board. Again, he's using the Gren, who was a gingy bottle and a packet of crisps, as being like, oh, look how good we were in the market. But he confirms that, like, the Gren was $1 million. He's definitely, like, there's no meetings required to sign Ben the Gren at £1 million or whatever. So again, like, hiding behind that is just wild. Again, such a contradiction. With such approval thresholds or standard practice amongst businesses, they're too rigid, though. You know, football has to be a bit more flexible. Football players are not fungible. We've been through this before. I'm not going to bore you with it again. Supporter groups questioned how this approval was sought, and Chris Mackay confirmed board members would be emailed for final approval, but would be aware of the background in advance. This feels like, again, Michael Nicholson never phoned me back, chat.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to email everyone and wait for everyone to email back. Like, no.
That's not a structure that's going to work for a football club. So it's just not going to work, because look, if you've got a director of football and you've got a budget, you say, right, the budget's this, you work within that budget and we'll let you be the director of football. And then if that director of football thinks that you've got to sign somebody at 7 million, then they'll just go and get the deal done. Now, transfer market might or might not move quickly, or you seen with Casper Dolberg, like, Celtic were trying to sign him. They wanted him. Don't know if he was definitely want to come. They were going to try and convince him. Next minute, somebody get injured, whole chain reaction, end up going to Ajax. So if you need to email somebody and you need to wait a week or whatever,
you need to email the board. The board emails.
Let's all have a meeting, right? Fire up Zoom. We'll meet on Friday. When's everybody all together? Golf courses aside and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, we'll meet on Friday. We'll approve this on Friday and then go back to club. Oh, sorry, I'm not interested anymore. Somebody's outbid you. Like, that's not a modern structure, right? That is a company structure, but it's not a modern football or a trading structure. So that just smacks of needing, like, modernized. Because I think the other thing that was said was that Nicholson was involved in all these deals. So the Birmingham thing, I think they even said that Celtic never got back to them. So their deadline was, say, 7 o'clock. So they had an earlier deadline than what Celtic had to work to. And Nicholson was obviously working on these other deals. Why is he the only person working on deals at that point? How can you be working on 5 deals on that night? Partly because perhaps we left it too late, hadn't got our business done, but also it shouldn't just be down to one person at that point. And also, where was the rest of the people who had to email that night as well?
It's jokeable.
It's a Monday night. So where was everybody? Did they have a WhatsApp chat that he was sitting, he was WhatsApping everybody saying, there's an email going out, can you say yes or no? Like, that's not the right way to be making footballing decisions.
Amateur hour.
It's not. It really isn't. Like, I don't. Was
You
Brendan
can tell
Rodgers
no one really has the complete authority to make a decision. That's really the problem. You know, that you do need. Again, I hate to use big examples of famous clubs or whatever, but at Barcelona, like, it's Deco and Tebas. Like, Deco will get it to 99%, and then the other guy finishes it, or Monchi and Unai, you know, like Aston Villa. I know he's just been sacked, but these guys do it all. They get it all the way there, and it's like rubber stamp. That's all we need here, you know. It's not like, this whole meeting of the minds and the war room meeting from the comment that we had there. The rest of this little section here just talks about essentially how they interviewed people for the director of football thing. There was no standout candidate. They had Tisdale on a consultancy, and Brendan, what was the wording they used? Supported the recruitment of Tisdale following the consultancy period. So Brendan liked his work with Trusty Engels. I don't want to say Ida. I think that was a Brendan one. Maybe somebody else. So that's that. The tabloid news story. I think we've kind of caught the headlines of this already, but we know the script. Chris Mackay said all the board members have been asked about the article and there was no basis for further investigation. But Chris Mackay also mentioned that the newspaper source was a senior figure, which not necessarily have been a board member. The football manager confirmed that the matter was closed in the next press conference. Nicholson noted that the board understands the importance of confidentiality When asked why the club have not taken legal action against the paper, Nicholson confirmed that the club would not take legal action in relation to speculation and said that the club was busy enough as it is. CFC reps argued that this approach was dismissive of, So if you remember, Brendan's terms around all of this is it was a cowardly act. Remember that?
Yeah, he knew who it was. I think he actually mentioned everybody that could have been involved and left one person out when he was, rather than saying, oh yes, I think it was this person, he went on like in the next sentence to say that he had a good relationship with, and then started mentioning all the relevant people apart from Peter Lawwell. So I think everybody knows by the process of elimination who it was. And the fact that Celtic haven't taken any action against it suggests that actually it was true. So, I mean, Brendan Rodgers even came out in the press conference and says at times he's been briefed upon by people at the club, and he's just sat there and just called out whoever it is in the club that's done it has to be Lawwell. And there's some rumours floating about that he's unwell or whatever. And I sincerely hope, I don't know, wish it on anybody. So, but that's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it? So
yeah. So Mackay said all the board members were asked and there was no further investigation. And if I go back a sentence, because where was the matter had been discussed with the board and with the football manager, and the matter was closed. Like, Brendan is calling them cowards because he knows one of them is, like, he's telling us, like, they're cowards. It's a cowardly act that's happened here. That was all of his phraseology around it. And they're saying, oh, we asked everyone and nobody said it was me, So, like, they're all playing either like we're all playing funny buggers is the way I would say it. I don't remember the right way of putting it, but you're playing everyone as being idiots or whatever.
It's like the traitors. It's like the traitors or something. Yeah. Which one's a traitor? Like,
totally.
Celtic edition, Celtic board edition, and the traitors.
Roger Hannah was on the radio yesterday, and he didn't back down from the story. Roger Hannah, say what you want about him and the Sun and all the rest of it, but like he's not gonna make that up out of thin air. No. They do say here it might not be a board member, but with the stuff like Brenda, like it was like board level intel, wasn't it?
It's Lawwell not a non-executive director or something, so he's not on the board.
Okay, that's okay. I just always think of Lawwell, like, even though he's non-executive chairman, he is like the only chairman at the club, isn't he?
Yeah, but I don't think he's on the board, the actual board of directors. So
but that always just confuses me because I've got him in my head as chairman.
The people that have been in the email chain of can we sign off this transfer or whatever, the board, like the people who are making the decisions regarding the club, I don't think Lawwell's on that. I don't know, maybe I'll be getting the structure wrong, but
after this comes from the Fairhurst inquiry stuff. I'm not really across this topic, so I really don't want to go into this in full detail because I actually I'm not really across all the stuff around it. I know it's around the kettle and the fans and all that kind of stuff, isn't it? But I'm not really too up on all of it, to be quite frank with you. So it's on screen. If you want to pause it, feel free. You can have a read through it. I don't think I've got it in me after being on for an hour and 40 minutes. I had a 4-hour stream before this as well. I had 2 videos to record in the morning.
So need to lie down after this, Quinny.
I've killed all the camera batteries. What's that?
Go and watch Scotland. That'll set you to sleep.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, they've said quite openly they want the fans more engaged with the police stuff, so that's kind of fine. When will supporters receive the results of the fan survey? I think this is a bit of a non-thing. It's not a non-thing. It's obviously important in that, right? But I think this is kind of just being used to beat them over the head with as another example of no follow-through, So fine. Creation of a fan advisory board. The CFC raised the question of a fan advisory board. Paul Quillen, PQ again, asking if there was something the club had considered. PQ suggested it would allow for fan representatives at the club facilitate two-way consultation. The club were asked to confirm their position on this. Nicholson confirmed that this is a matter the club is aware of and has been considering. Supporters requested a clear timeline and structure for consultation. The club said they would come back on this point. This is linked to questions from the fans forum fan survey, and the club is looking at these structures as part of its broader supporter and engagement development, considering these like England and Scotland, as well as the club's statute as a public listed company. also confirmed that the club had met with Celtic Trust regarding their survey. GC explained the review of the club undertaken, which includes identifying clubs operating similar structures and examining who is on such boards. I don't think we want anyone from the West Ham or the Man U board, to be quite honest with you. Why did that? GC explained the review the club are currently undertaking, which includes identifying clubs operating similar structures,
yeah,
and how individuals are elected and what terms of reference apply, among other factors. GC confirmed that the club will be speaking with other clubs to get direct feedback. So GC is who? It sounds like a Celtic ended chat after I read it. Is GC one of these kids? Yeah, George Campbell, head of legal and governance.
Sounds exciting.
So he's saying, okay, I'll wet Man United. So he wants to go and have lunch with Jim Ratcliffe then, does he? And go and hang out with Karen Brady. You know, he wants to go and hang out with the famous ones, does he?
Because West Ham and Man United are doing really well, so I don't go and just meet with them. Joe should be going meeting with Salzburg.
I thought they had a great relationship with Man City. Why are they not hanging out with them?
Well, you should be hanging out with them, but like, if you want to build a youth academy, you want to bring in young players, you want to do player development pathways, you should be going to Red Bull.
Yeah.
Totally. It's no rocket science, is it?
I think this is a wee bit more in line with the whole fan connection to the board.
Yeah,
why would go to Germany,
yeah,
Italy, Spain? There's a lot more of that there. I don't know why you're looking at West Ham and Man U. A review of non-exec directors. PQ suggested, MN said they'll take that suggestion on board. Closing. All attendees were thanked and told to fuck off. Representatives from
take that suggestion to the board, not on board, to the board.
Oh, sorry. Okay, is that better? Maybe that is better.
Well, it sounds like sounds to me like what's happened is it's been Peter Lawwell. Brendan Rodgers knows it's Peter Lawwell. It's happened before. He's come out. He said, I can't really name who it is. Then he's named all the people he's got a good relationship with. They've all had a chat about it. The matter's closed. That suggestion where he said he would take it to the board, Lawwell's gone at some point, isn't he? That's what it looks to me. So in the next month or two or whatever, Lawwell's going to go. If not, then, you know, we're talking about the board's position not being tenable and stuff here. But if you're a football manager and you're the manager of a club and you're sitting there and people are briefing against you, then your management is not tenable, is it? You know, if somebody in your organisation is actually going and briefing the newspapers about stuff regarding what you're doing or what you should be doing or strategy or whatever, that's not tenable. So something is going to change there. Either Brendan Rodgers is going to walk at some point, or there's going to be some form of change in terms of the top end of the club, whether it's the actual board or people that are involved that have been doing things like that. So there we go.
And then one of the comments said it, and I think it's probably nice to know from like the sense of the room. We get a bit of a closing statement from PQ again, the hero in the meeting for us. Explained that the meeting had been disappointing to the fan reps in attendance. No meaningful progress had been made, and the Celtic fan collective would report to signatory organisations. Nicholson acknowledged the frustration amongst attendees insofar as the club were unavailable to offer direct answers due to confidentiality, which is a cop-out. Reaffirmed the club's commitment to reviewing the engagement and reiterated the club wants to find a way forward and offered further meetings with supporter groups going forward in dialogue. What a non-event.
Well, it's good that there's some engagement and they're showing some sort of effort, but I think with these things so the way I was thinking about it earlier is the Celtic board are like Brendan Rodgers and Celtic fans are like the players, and what's happened is the Celtic fans are as the manager have lost the dressing room. So, you know, having these meetings and things, and if they'd have turned up and said, look, we're really sorry, we didn't meet our objectives, we're trying to sign some players. What happened was one of the players ended up signing for somebody else. We thought we had a good chance of signing them. Another one of the players got injured. Just didn't really work in our favour. We apologise about that. We appreciate it should have been done earlier. We'll make sure that we do better in future. We've not had a good record in the last couple of windows. We understand the manager's been a bit frustrated by that. We've discussed that with him. will undertake to do better. That would have been far better than all that absolute shit that they've just absolutely just spouted there. Like, it's like, like just actually sit down with people and just be realistic about it and just say, right, okay, but maybe they're never going to do that because like they're in a position where they feel as if their own position's up for it. Nicholson's on 900,000 a year, so I don't know. Maybe if I was sitting there, I would just say what he said. Like I just keep saying that part of that kind of corporate stuff until such times as I'm not getting paid 900,000 a year. Somebody comes along and says, "Here's your agreement. We'll pay you 2 million. Bugger off." Like whatever. But it just feels as if actually some of this stuff, the statement and then that meeting, it's not done any like it's actually like in a way sort of making things worse. Because remember, Quinny, the whole point with the meeting was that we're going to be a silent protest for last Thursday, and then the club then sort of obviously reached out to organisations to get the protest cancelled. We'll meet and we'll have a chat about it. So okay, they've addressed it in some way, and the protests are off, but they haven't actually really done any good there, have they?
Mate, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was my first thought when all the stuff was leaking out afterwards. Was see when everybody was like, "Oh, they didn't say anything and nothing was da da da." They have just done that to get the protesting stopped over. The Braga game was pretty important. We wanted to try and have a European atmosphere in the stadium as much as they possibly could, despite the ticket sales going the way they did. And the weekend thereafter, I forget who, Motherwell. So yeah, this has just been. If we have a meeting with them for an hour and a half, we'll get them to sing their songs in the stadium for 2 games, and then we can deal with it later again. So it's totally been a rug pull situation, I think, a rug pull or a switcheroo, a kind of, a shell game situation, isn't it? Where they're like, we'll have the meeting, we'll talk, yeah, let's do it. And then everyone goes, okay, well, we'll go to the game and we'll start singing now, guys. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. And you go to the meeting and they say, I don't accept the premise of your question, or the shrug.
See, the thing is, see if you come on here, right, and you say, me and you're on, and if we get a minute and we're having a quick chat, and you go, I'm just going to throw this live. And I'm going, right, what we're going to discuss tonight, and then you come on, you ask me a question, and I say, I don't accept the premise of that question, Quinny. But the thing is, you've just hit me with that question. See those questions that they were asked? Those questions have been floating about for weeks. So if me and you have a show and you say, right, next week we're not going to next week, I'm going to be sitting in a caravan with a fish supper, right? But you say to me, we're going to have a show and there's going to be some difficult questions here. I say, Quinny, can I see these questions first? Because I'm going to be cramping myself here. So, give me the questions and then I'll think up a good answer or whatever. Imagine turning up and saying, I don't accept the premise of that question. Honestly, seriously, how do you think you're actually going to endear yourself in any way to the fans and organisations if you just say, we just don't accept that question at all? But instead, how would you answer that, Quinny? I'm putting you on the spot now, but what would be a better way to answer that question about being underprepared for European games?
It was like how to modernise and stuff like that as well. I think, like, when he says, I don't accept the premise of the question, he's trying to be like the strong leader, but it's the wrong battle to fight on, Like, you've just told us that tax problems stopped you doing deals in Belgium and Germany in 2025. It's not the 1960s. It's not Saudi Arabia. It's not Dubai. It's not some weird, quirky country or tax situation to navigate, So the idea that your processes are modern, that you accepted at the beginning of the meeting that so I don't know how we could have really, like, it's just, I don't know how it comes out with it in the first place, but in terms of the modernization part, again, you would need to be in the job to kind of know this is how we fucked up. That's kind of what we're trying to get out of him, and he won't give us it. What happened? Well, the real problem was, guys, let's be honest. The real problem was me and Chris were meant to handle all this stuff with the negotiation. But see, Chris, he's no good with foreign tax systems. So I actually took him in our 2 days to work on the price of the deal and could we afford it? How much could we get the player? And by that time, the deal had been done. They'd moved somewhere else. Sorry, we'll get better. But then I've made that up, right? But just as an example, however, the tax process has been a problem, as well as the agent fees and whatever. I'm just trying to imagine it in my head. But he's not going to do that. He's not going to actually reveal where the failings were. He's admitted that there were failings. He knows that we failed. He knows the transfer window was suboptimal. He knows we should be in the Champions League rather than the Europa League. But by saying that, he's saying, I'm not telling you. Like, because there is something to admit to. Like, we were behind the ball, behind the curve on this protocol, this process, this system, this learning curve, whatever. And we'll be better next time. No, I don't accept the premise. Like, that's just not a thing. You know, we did everything. We're as modern as we can be, is what he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rubbish. I mean, to turn up and say that, they've been aware of what the questions would have been, really. Like, even if they said something like, we've had a chat earlier about the other sort of questions here about the overall objectives. One of the objectives was again the Champions League. We never got in. We thought we were prepared for the Champions League and that would sign 4 or 5 players. One major player left. We weren't able to get a replacement in time, and we still thought we'd have enough to qualify, but in the end we were beating penalties. We get put out. We'll need to review that as a club because that's a major issue for us in general. But you know, we don't feel as if we're always underprepared in general. It's just we've been working all window and that's the way it transpired. But just to say, we don't accept the premise of this question, you know, it's like, come on, like, you're dealing with football fans and supporters groups and stuff here. You're not dealing with, do you know what I mean? You're dealing with real people and customers. You're not dealing with like a commodity. I was messaging somebody and, like, you know, he's a wee bit disengaged with Celtic at the moment. He's just like, I just feel as if Celtic are just, like, they're just commoditise the fans, you know? So it's like, you know, you pay X for this, you go and you pay £4 for a Fanta and all that sort of stuff, and it's all about how much money we can generate, how much money we can make in financial statements and building up money and doing this and doing that. And okay, we've been successful in that time, but you know, things are starting to change a wee bit as well, and that you're getting like a stronger Hearts, and I know that Rangers have been really poor, but there's other teams that are doing a wee bit better in Scotland in general as well. Hibs look quite good at the moment. Aberdeen have signed some good players. So it's like, you can't assume that you'll have success all the time. The cup final was a warning sign there as well, and that we were not playing very well at the second half of the season. You think, well, you're still going to win a treble. Didn't play well in the final, lost the final and stuff like that. Then lost the qualifier. Also really poor record in recent Old Firm games. No, sorry, Glasgow Derby. I always get in trouble with that, Quinny. You always get in trouble. Glasgow Derby games. Right, so
I just know we'll both get in trouble.
I know we'll get in trouble for something, I'm sure. But
I slip of the tongue, man.
Like,
come on, it happens sometimes.
We've not like, yeah, we're not. We've not been playing that well since we beat. We didn't beat Bayern. We drew with Bayern. We get put out. We've not played that well really since that Bayern game. We've not been firing on all cylinders, and instead of freshening up and everything over the summer, it's not really worked. But the Champions League thing was just an embarrassment, really. I mean, they're a relatively capable team in terms of keeping it tight or whatever. And all right, you know, teams are getting beat by now. Real Madrid could put 4 or 5 goals past anybody or whatever. I get all of that sort of stuff, but I don't think they've scored a goal in the Champions League yet, and they'll finish bottom. And if we really aspire to be even in that mid-table in the Champions League, those types of games should be almost bordering on routine. And we hardly created any chances across the couple of games. I think we had Maeda blazed one over, but we didn't. It's not as if we looked like we were.
Maeda missed one in each game.
Yeah, I think they had the odd chance at Parkhead as well. Anyways, it's one of those. I think when we went into that game, the fans felt as if we were underprepared. But we have sold guys like Kyogo and Nicholas Kuhn, so it's not our fault, is it? I think fans are realistic, and when you go there, if Celtic start really well, go 1-0 up, then the fans will definitely get behind them. The atmosphere at the Braga game, I was at the Braga game, and the atmosphere was okay. Even at the end, there was a few people that left early and everything, but the people who were still there at that point they weren't going ballistic or whatever, but they weren't booing or shouting or singing sack the board or anything. They were probably in a wee bit of disbelief that we were 2-0 down, but they were still there, staying at the end of the game, thinking, oh, it's 5 minutes to go, maybe we'll salvage it or whatever. So there wasn't anything inherently wrong with the actual atmosphere there. The whole problem that night was the performance was just utterly terrible. It's garbage. So it's you need to look after what's happening on the pitch. And then some of those ties, if you get 1-0 up after 20 minutes against Kyra at Celtic Park, you could end up beating them 3-4-0 because the whole place starts getting a bit of a lift. And instead, what happened was everything was just edgy for like 2 games, basically, and never really created anything at all over there, I don't think. Hardly anything, so.
I agree with all that. And it's very infuriating that they class like getting the Bayern Munich games as a marker of their strategy working, because if it was an old Champions League group last year and we had to play Dortmund twice, Atalanta twice, and then Young Boys twice, that's the way it would have been, you know? Would we, or Bratislava, let's say it was Bratislava twice, Dortmund and Atalanta, would we get out of that group? Would we fuck, you know? So, like, the change of format doesn't save you. The change of format means, you know, it's you can't say, oh, we got out the group stage. No, like, what a thing. McBride, last thing before we rock and roll, we hit the 2-hour mark. Wow, what heroes and legends everyone is for staying with us. Smash the like button. The first magic number we've got to get to is 67, or we're not going to have sweet dreams tonight and good luck in the transfer window. Is this the first time, McBride, the Scotland team has been better than the Celtic team this millennium?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, like, take Andy Robertson every day of the week. Suter, obviously. Hickey, pretty good. Lewis Ferguson, really good player. Christie's playing in the English Premier League. Doak, love him back at Celtic. McTominay, brilliant in Italy. Was in the Ballon d'Or race. John McGinn, take him in a minute. Celtic don't have any good strikers. So, yeah, I wouldn't fancy us against that team at the moment, if I'm perfectly honest. What about you?
I think the midfield would be the winner, wouldn't it, really? Like, you could just see McTominay, Christie, McGinn, they could all crash the box, you know, and all be... The fullbacks are obviously quality. Centre backs and goalkeepers, where I think that, you know, we could certainly score against them.
Yeah.
But would we keep them out? Shea Adams is actually doing pretty well now in Italy. I think he got Player of the Month for maybe just Torino, but he's in a good space right now. McSauce, we all know how good he is. But yeah, I just seen that and I thought maybe that's an interesting one. Feel free, guys, to leave that as a comment if you don't want to talk about the board. You want to have a happy afterthought at the end of the show. Is this the first team the Scotland team's better than the is that a happy afterthought? I don't know. Something non-board, non-transfer related, perhaps. But yeah, McBride, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks for hanging out with me.
No bother at all. No problem.
Oh yeah, 1,000. And thanks to everyone in the live chat. It means a lot. If you've watched this after we're live till this point from the start, you are a psycho and we love you. Hope you've hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Hail, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Hail.